So hey guys, welcome to the channel Learning Competitive Programming with CodeChef. So if you want to learn competitive programming and master data structures and algorithm, this is the right platform for you. So every week there will be several videos on the editorials of CodeChef's contest as well as several videos on the hard topics of competitive programming. So please do subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell notification. So my name is Chirayu Jain. I am from Jaipur Engineering College and Research Center and I am the CodeChef Educator. So the problem that we are going to take today is vaccine production with the code VACCINE1 and the prerequisite of the problem is none. So what will be the agenda today? So first of all, we'll understand the problem statement with the help of example. Then we'll move towards the approach of the problem with the help of an example. And then finally, we'll code the solution in C++. Okay guys, so let us understand the problem statement. So the problem is vaccine production. This particular paragraph has no meaning, so we'll start off with the paragraph which has the meaning, which has the initial problem statement. So there are two companies which are producing vaccines for COVID. Company A starts producing vaccines on day 1, right? So here we can see the example. This is the sample case of the problem, and D1 represents the day on which company A starts. So it is 5, right? So we are taking an example. So here we can see in this timeline that these represents the number of days and company A starts on this particular day, that is day 5. And it can produce V1 vaccines per day. So after this day, company A can produce V1 vaccines. So what is the value of V1? That is 4. So after this day, it can produce 4 vaccines per day. Company B starts producing vaccines on D2, right? So D2 represents the day on which company B starts. So it starts on day 2. So here we can see in this example that company B starts on day 2. And it can produce V2 vaccines per day, right? So what is the vaccine count that it can produce? That is 10 vaccines per day, after which it starts the production. That is, it can produce 10 vaccines each day after day 2. Currently we are on day 1, so we are starting the timeline from day 1. And what do we need to find? We need to find P vaccines, right? We need to find a total of P vaccines. We are given with a total of P vaccines, and how many days are required to produce enough vaccines? We need to find that, right? So we have been given P vaccines that we need to fulfill for our requirement, and we need to find that how many days will be enough if the production starts according to the following timeline by company A and company B, and in how many days we are able to get these P vaccines. So we need to find the smallest D integer such that we have enough vaccines at the end of that day, right? So if we formulate the solution of this particular example, then company B starts the production on day 2, right? So it can produce 10 vaccines. So till now on this day we have 0 vaccines because no company start the production on day 1. So company B starts the production on day 2, so it will have 10 vaccines on day 2. On day 3 we'll also have 10 vaccines again. On day 4 we'll have 10 vaccines again, right? So till now how many vaccines do we have? That is 30 vaccines, and only company B started the production. But after day 5, right, starting from the day 5, what do we have? We have company A also in the action, right? So company A and company B, both of these companies will produce vaccines now. So company A can produce 4 vaccines per day, and company B as usual producing 10 vaccines per day. So the total number of vaccines after this, after the day 5, how many vaccines do we get on each day? That is 14 vaccines, right? 4 from company A and 10 from company B. So we'll add up these and we'll get 14 vaccines, right? So from day 5 we'll get 14 vaccines each day, until now we have 30 vaccines till day 4, right? So on day 5 how many vaccines we'll have in all? That is 44 vaccines, and adding 14 to it again on day 6 we'll have how many vaccines? That is 58 vaccines, right? And after that how many vaccines do we have? That is 72 vaccines on day 7, right? And on day 8 how many vaccines do we have? Again adding 14 to it, that is 86 vaccines, right? And on the day 9 we'll have 86 plus 14, that is 100 vaccines, right? So what is the requirement? What is the requirement that is given in this P, right? So this P represents the number of vaccines that we require, so that is 100, right? And on which day we are able to achieve at least 100 vaccines? That is on day 9, right? So on day 9 we are able to achieve at least 100 vaccines. So this is the following answer of this particular sample case, that is we require 9 days to produce the vaccines, right? So this is how the question flow is, and this is how we are able to get the solution, right? So this is all about the problem statement. Now let's look at the approach. Okay, so now let's see the approach of this particular problem. So we have maintained the following timeline, and we'll try to develop the formulas according to this following timeline. We'll consider all the possible cases. So let us take the general thing that we require P vaccines, right? So we are generalizing the whole thing. We require P vaccines, and company A starts on D1 day, and company B starts on D2 day, and company A can make V1 vaccines and company B can make V2 vaccines each day, right? So this is the generalized version. Now, if let us consider the case if company B starts the production earlier than company A, so obviously D2 will be less than D1, right? So this is the first thing, D2 will be less than D1. And the first thing that we can observe is that how many number of days there will be no vaccines, right? So if D2 starts from here, right, and D1 starts from here, so obviously D2 is less than D1, but before D2, if there are any days, that means there will be no vaccines on these days, right? So these days are vacant, and we need to have these days because we require the minimum days, right, starting from the 1, right? So we are encountering the timeline from day 1, so we will add these days with no value. So at least we should have D2 minus 1 days in which there is no vaccines, right? In the case where D2 is less than D1, right? So there is vice versa case, I think the replica case in which D1 is less than D2, so it will require D1 minus 1 days, because if D1 is less, then obviously D1 minus 1 days will be vacant, right? So this situation is replica of this situation. Now the first case is already considered, that at least we should have D2 minus 1 days. As we can see, this particular part is vacant, correct? Now how many days will be there with vaccines V2? So I am considering this case. So after this, company B only starts the production, right? So company B only starts the production, and till when it will produce? Only it will produce each day, that is till this particular day, that is till day 4, it will only produce vaccines, because on day 5 we'll encounter company A. So before that only company B produces the vaccine. So how many days are there on which only company B produces vaccines? That is D1 minus D2. Obviously this particular days, these number of days will be left where only company B produces the vaccines. So the second condition is that how many days are there that only company B, that means which is producing first the vaccines, can produce vaccine, that is D1 minus D2 days, right? So only these days company B will start the production, right? So we have encountered two things: first, the number of vacant days, and second, the days in which only company B started the production. Now we have some vaccines left, maybe some vaccines left, right? So from the day 5, right, from this particular day, company A also comes into the action, and we'll get the days according to the company A's production and company B production. We'll add those productions on each day, and we'll try to find out the days which are left, right? So how we can do this is, first of all, we need to think that how many vaccines are left, right? So total number of vaccines is P, right? The remaining vaccines will be D1 minus D2 into V2. How? Because the only vaccines which are made in this particular timeline is by the company B, which has the production of V2 vaccines each day. So how many days are there? First of all, that is D1 minus D2, and on each day how many vaccines are produced by company B? That is V2, correct? So till now we have these much of vaccines, right? And what will be the remaining vaccines? We'll subtract it from total, right? So P minus D1 minus D2 into V2, right? So this is all the total remaining vaccines we have till now, right? And right after, from this particular day, that is of day 5, we'll have both the companies into the action. So we'll divide these remaining vaccines with V1 plus V2, so we can have the total number of days remaining, right? So total number of days, that is 4 coming, right? So these many vaccines left, and we'll divide it with the per day production of the vaccines, right? So this what will be the output of this particular term? That is the number of days required to produce these much of vaccines, right? So we'll divide the remaining vaccines with the number of vaccines produced each day, so it will give the number of forthcoming days. So this is how the third point is coming, that is the forthcoming days will have both vaccines V1 plus V2, and we'll divide V1 plus V2. I will divide the remaining vaccines with V1 plus V2. So this will give the number of forthcoming days. Now, how many total number of days are there? So by the first condition, that is D2 minus 1 days. With the second condition, we'll have D1 minus D2 days, and the third condition will have these many days. So we'll add up this and make the final formula, that is this one. So these are the total number of days that we'll have. Correct. So a replica situation will be created where D1 will be less than D2, same situation, but changing of the variables, right? So where company A starts first and company B comes second. So we'll have these conditions and will form up to this particular formula. So this is a very easy question, but only trick is we need to formulate this particular thing, and we'll use one if else, and then we can get to this particular answer. Now let us see what is the point of conflict where we can stuck to this particular question. Also, did you know that CodeChef also conducts free live classes on Unacademy where we teach every possible topic related to competitive programming? We have beginner level courses like Introduction to Programming in C++, Java, Recursion, Basic Data Structures, as well as advanced courses like Dynamic Programming, Graph Theory, and Segment Trees. So these courses are conducted by top coding experts who are ICPC World Finalist, IOI Medalist, and working in product-based companies like Amazon, Google, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So all you need to do is download the Unacademy app or register yourself at unacademy.com and choose your goal as competitive programming. You can also take the Plus paid subscription to get additional features and individual level support. In Plus, we have a large set of practice problems associated with each topic covered. Also, we have 6-star, 7-star rated teaching assistants to clear all your doubts during the live sessions. You can also use my referral code, which is Chirayu Jain, to subscribe for the Plus classes and get an instant 10% off. So hurry up guys, don't miss out this lovely opportunity and kickstart your journey for competitive programming. Okay, so the point of conflict where we can stuck at this particular question is that we'll have, let us say we have a test case in which the company A starts the production at day 5 and it can produce V1 vaccines. That means 5 vaccines each day after D1, right? And company B starts the production on day 1 and it can produce 10 vaccines per day, and the total amount of vaccines that we require is 30, right? So at this particular test case, what we'll have, on the first day we'll have 10 vaccines produced by company B. On the day second we have again 10 vaccines produced by company B. On day 3 we'll again have 10 vaccines produced by company B, right? So after these days, total number of vaccines that we got is 30, right? So we did not require any further production after this day, right? So we do not require, because we met our goal, that is producing 30 vaccines. So we met our goal, and the goal is met only by company B. So we do not require any further production by company B as well as company A, right? So in that particular formula, we are considering all the cases where we need to check whether the difference between the company A and company B, and then further see how many productions that we can have with the company A as well. So we'll make a check over there that if the production is completed by one company only, which is starting at earlier stage, and the production is met before the another company starts its production, then we'll stop there and we'll produce the number of days required for that production only, right? So here the company B started with the production, and on day 3 it met the whole production, right? So without interference of company A or the production of company A, it met the whole production that we needed, right? So 30 vaccines are produced till the day 3 by only single company, right? So we'll make a check over there that before the company A starts, or any company which is starting from further, that particular company starts its production, whether a company exists which can make the production before that particular company, right? So we'll take the note of this and formulate a full solution. So let's see the solution of this particular problem in C++. Okay, so now let us understand the solution of this particular problem in C++. So first of all, what we are trying to do, first of all, we are trying to enter the values, that is D1, V1, D2, V2 and P, right? So we have taken the 5 variables and we have entered the value in this. So as we have discussed in the problem, that if D1 is less than D2, then what we will do, we'll use that particular formula that we formulated in the approach, right? So there is a check that I cleared in point of conflict, that if the production is less than one company's production, that if we are able to meet the total number of vaccines before another company starts, then we'll need to apply that check. So there is a check that if D1 is less than D2, then if P by V1 is less than D2 minus D1, right? So if we are able to produce vaccines, right, so P, total number of vaccines divided by V1, that means their number of days in which V1 will only complete to make the vaccines. If that is less than D2 minus D1, that is the remaining days, the time gap between D1 and D2. So if we're able to fill up all the vaccines before that difference, that means we only require one company, that is D1, which is the company V1, which is the company A, right? So we only require that company to fill up the production, right? So how many days will it require? That is D1 minus 1 days. D1 minus 1 days will be vacant, and the remaining days company A will be only producing the vaccine, so it will the P will be divided by V1, right? And what is this? What we have taken in this is, if P modulo V1 is greater than 0, that means the remainder is remaining, that will add up one extra day, obviously, because we'll need to take the absolute value of the number of days, right? We need to take how many minimum days we require to complete at least that much production, that is P vaccines need to be produced, right? So we'll modulo this and we'll check that if there is a remainder remaining, that is one extra day, so we'll add up, it will return true, and that means 1, so we'll add up 1, otherwise it will return 0, that means we do not require any other day, so it is completely divisible, right? So this is the important check that I was mentioning about. And the remaining condition is that this modulo is greater than 0, then we'll add 1, because the remainder, the total number of vaccines remaining, modulo V1 plus V2 will, if it will give some remainder, then we require 1 extra day, otherwise we will not. So that is the same formula that we have discussed in the approach, so we are applying there. And else, if the modulo is not greater than 0, that means we need not require another day, so it will be 0, that is no other day required. So that is the same formula that we have discussed in the approach. So this is the condition, that is if D1 is less than D2. Otherwise, the replica situation will be created where D2 is less than equal to D1. So this is the replica situation over there in this particular code. So the same thing that we have discussed in the approach is applied over here using if else conditions. So this is the whole C++ code that we just wrote, and now it's the time to submit this code on CodeChef platform. Paste the code and submit. And we got AC.